fans, welcome back to another Tap in Fantasy video. My name is Kyle, and I'm the founder of Tap in Fantasy. Our goal is to bring all of the fantasy golf landscape to one home. Yes, you heard that right. One and done, traditional fantasy, drafts, tiers, and salary-based games all to our platform. Last week, a little bit of a recap, we had Keegan Bradley. USA. Let's go. Hate it for Tommy. Absolutely gutted. But again, when you have Keegan as your one outright winner, you really got to celebrate it. We also had Henley for a top 20, which was excellent. So we're riding hot. Let's carry that into this week. We are in Detroit for the Rocket Classic, no longer the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Should be a really fun one. The field is a lot stronger than it usually is, which will make for some really exciting storylines. But for this video, we're going to look at weather. We're going to look at ownership. We're going to look at just all the data. See who's a good course fit, and then from there, get our picks, get our bets. So let's jump right in. Again, we are in Detroit for the Rocket Classic this week. It is a non-elevated event, full field, top 65 in ties. I'm pretty sure make the cut. And the first thing we're always going to look at every single week is going to be the weather. Now, I could see a path for both waves to having an advantage, and I'm going to explain why. Let's look at Thursday a.m., Friday p.m., guys. I think Thursday a.m., it's going to be very soft. It's going to be raining pretty much up until they tee off. It's going to be much lower temperatures. Some of these days it is extremely hot, so it's going to bake out. It's going to be playing real firm and fast. But for Thursday for them, I think they can get 6 to 8 holes in pretty much prime conditions with a soft course and fairly low temperatures for the week if we're factoring everything in. The only thing for them is on Friday, they're going to be playing on a completely baked out course in a little bit stronger of winds. So I think where they do have a Thursday advantage, I think it's kind of negated on Friday. And then for the Thursday PM, Friday AM group, it's going to be a little bit hotter. There's not going to be as much winds on Thursday, but we got a little bit of rain. It's going to be a little bit hotter. I think on Thursday they're probably going to have about a half a stroke harder of a time. But then on the flip side, I could genuinely see them having a much easier time Friday morning when they're going off at about 6:45. The tee time's from 6:45 to I think like 2:30. So they're going to be playing in when it is a lot cooler with very little wind. I think it's still going to be, since we're going to be getting some rain overnight, it's going to be fairly soft. So I think they can have an advantage of about a half a stroke to 3/4 of a stroke on Friday. All in all, what I'm trying to say is I genuinely don't think across both days there's going to be much of a weather advantage at all. It's going to be very unpredictable, especially with the field strength. Some of these guys are very hit or miss, very streaky. I think it's going to be very tough to peg which wave is going to have an advantage. All in all, just definitely keep an eye on some of these rain patterns that could play a major factor. But I don't see much of a weather edge. And it's tough to factor that in for Saturday and Sunday, where you're going to be having much easier scoring conditions. Saturday, they'll probably tee off at around 8:45 to 10 after the cut. Literally no wind. It's going to be under 90 degrees. I mean, prime scoring conditions on Saturday. And then when you look to Sunday, it doesn't really go all the way to the end. But when you're going to be in a little bit harder conditions because it's going to be completely baked out. I mean, 95 degrees probably when these guys are going to be finishing and very little wind. It's going to be tough to stick it. You're going to have to crank it off the tee, and then hopefully you can stick it on these greens because they're going to be just flying. So not seeing much of a weather edge this week. Let's go ahead and hop into our ownership projections, the data, see who's really a good course fit for Detroit Golf Club, and we'll go from there. So Detroit Golf Club, it is going to be very simple this week. This course, you have to hit it far. You got to hit your wedge as well, and you got to putt. Pretty much my entire model is based off of those things. Just giving you a breakdown, weighted strokes gained approach and weighted strokes gained putting. This is a very all over the place field. There are some guys that play on the Korn Ferry Tour pretty regularly. There are some lower field PGA guys, and there actually are some strong PGA guys in this field. So I kind of wanted to use weighted to give more of an advantage to the guys that are playing in the much stronger fields. Same with putting. You're going to be going up against a lot better putters, a lot better players. I think weighted is very important this week. So 25% of my model is going to those two spots. Now going down the list, you are going. This is going to be a birdie fest. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is pretty much every year. This course does not have much teeth. It is incredibly flat. There's not a lot off the tee that's really going to get in your way. You just got to bomb it and then hope you can get it on the green. And for that alone, I really think you have to pick up strokes gain total in bulk. So I want the guys that are picking up in total more than 2 or 3 strokes every single week. I'm not going to use a heavy amount of my model on it. So that's why I only did 6 and 4. But still, I think it is definitely a factor. Scoring, birdie or better. If it's a birdie fest, you need to score birdies. Driving, like I've said a couple of times, you can bomb it out there. It's basically a bomb and gouge. Hit it very far, and then figure it out from there. So driving distance, I'm all over it. And then I still put a lot on approach. I've said it a couple times. You are going to have to hit it far and then use your wedges. These are your short iron ranges from 50 to basically 125. I broke it up as 16%, 20%. You can do whatever you want. And from there, then hole types, par 5 scoring. If you are not scoring on the par 5s here, I think they are the 4 easiest holes on the golf course. You're going to fall behind. So a little bit on par 5 scoring. And then most importantly, this Detroit golf club has one of the stickiest course histories. Guys that show up here pretty much show up every year and play well. So I'm going to put 10 on Detroit golf club. Given those metrics, this is what it spits out for us. And massive shock, to be quite frank, Jake Knapp is leading the way. Just some other guys that are leading the way. Nikolai Højgaard is extremely high up there for how poor he's been playing. Cam Champ, I mean, this is the exact formula for Cam Champ to succeed. Would not be surprised if he's 600 through 8 holes. Like, he does randomly like 3 times a year, and it's probably here. He hits it far, and he can just get it on the green. He's up there. Steven Yeager, definitely a strong fit for him. The first guy that's kind of a reverse flip is going to be Akshay. Doesn't hit it the farthest, but he's got great approach play and a great putter. Thorbjorn Olsen, absolute bomber. The rest of these guys up here kind of fit in. First guy from the 6K range is Chan Kim. He does it in a bunch of different ways, but I'm pretty sure his is all on birdie or better. Yeah, birdie or better. He's pretty strong with his wedges, so might not be the longest off the tee, but he's one that stands out. EVR. Everything else kind of falls into place. I'm going to kind of scroll down. I know this is a 155-man field, by the way. As much as I would like to talk about every single golfer in the field, it's going to be really tough too, so just keep that in mind. That's one of those things. Drop in the comments if there's somebody you want me to deep dive. Just drop in the comments their name, and I'll break them down for you in there. Matt Fitzpatrick is pretty low, especially for the ownership. That's a bit shocking. Ryan Gerard is a bit low for the price. Michael Kim as well. That's kind of a shocker, but he's not really a bomber, if I'm mistaken. Yeah, not really the furthest off the tee. But any other guys standing out? No, not really. Yeah, the 7K and 6K range I think make up like 100 of the golfers this week. So that's pretty much it for my custom course model. Now let's go ahead and sort by the salary ranges and kind of break this down based off of the salaries. Everybody that I've starred, I'm going to be talking about. If they are not starred, I'm probably going to skim over them. But starting with the 10K range, we've got Colin Morikawa at 10-9 leading the way, followed by Keegan and Patrick Cantlay. Keegan coming off the massive win last week to pretty much secure himself as a spot on the Ryder Cup. I think it's absolutely huge. All in all, this 10K range, I think it is completely fadeable, and I'll kind of get into it why. Colin, his putter has been ice cold as of late. Again, 125th in this field in strokes gained putting weighted. That's not going to cut it. Birdie Fest, you have to be able to putt well. And then the icing on the cake is he does not hit it far. I'm not going to be getting to any Colin. If you get to him, fine. It's all fine and dandy, but I will not be. Keegan, I have a really hard time thinking he's going to show up to a non-elevated event with his, ready to go and win again and contend again. Following that big of a win. I mean, that was probably the biggest win of his entire career. I'm talking out my rear end. I'm pretty sure he has a major, doesn't he? Anyway, well, just probably the biggest win for him in the last couple of years. It, again, secured a spot on the Ryder Cup. I don't think there's any chance that he isn't a playing captain, which is something we haven't seen in years, which would be incredible. So I don't think I'm going to get down with Keegan. The numbers say you can get down with Keegan if you play Keegan, by all means. I do think, though, the casuals will be playing Keegan because it's so easy to fit him into lineups this week. So this 21% ownership, I think, is probably going to be coming in closer to 25, if not 30% when all is said and done. The guy I'm going to be going to in the 10K range, if I'm going to anyone, is going to be Patrick Cantlay. Now, he is probably the ugliest click on the entire board, but for me, he hits it far enough. He putts well enough. I think his approach game is going to carry him. He scores well on the par fives. And his one trip here was a T2. I think it was back in 2023. So clearly he kind of fits the course. His eyes fit the course. He'd be the one guy I'm going to go to. I'm not a big fan of him as an actual golfer, but I think he probably doesn't get the ownership he deserves given this field strength and what he can do. I mean, I still think he can win this golf tournament quite easily, but he's going to have to do it in a little bit different way than some of the true course fit darlings are going to be able to do it. Moving down into the 9K range, this is kind of a hit or miss range for me. Starts off with Ben Griffin. He's on an absolute heater right now. I think he has top 15s in each of his last 6 tournaments, including a win. He fits his course incredibly well. He hits it far enough. He's incredibly good with his putter, great on approach, scores enough birdies, great on the par fives. Just all in all, I think he's a great course fit. Why I have Hideki starred is one of those things. If Hideki's going to be low owned, just play him. I know he's not in the best of form. I kind of want to check that out. What's Hideki been up to lately? I don't think it's the best, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to cut it for a $9,600 golfer. I would much rather go to, again, Ben Griffin or Cantlay, or even the guys below him. I don't think he really fits this course that well. He's not the furthest off the tee. He's not great on par fives, and he doesn't pick up a lot of birdies. If this was a grinders course, I'd be more inclined to go to Hideki, but it's just not going to be for me. I'd much rather go to Harry Hall. This guy is having a crazy good year. Let's just go ahead and break it down. I'm pretty sure he is one of my dark horses to make the Ryder Cup for the European side. But again, T9 at the Travelers, really good showing at the Canadian Open. T6 at the Charles Schwab. His PGA Championship showing was great. He's a great putter. He's gaining almost across the bag, except for around the green, just at the Charles Schwab. These are really good numbers. I think the one thing that's going to hold him back this week for me is going to be, I don't think he hits it as far off the tee as you might need. But again, he's a great putter, picks up birdies. Doesn't score the best on par fives, but that's not the end of the world. I think he's a great option. The guy I'm going to be going to the most is going to be Cam Young. I totally understand that he is probably going to be the highest owned golfer this week. Complete shock donkey. But if there was ever a course to fit Cam Young as perfectly as this one does, it'd be Detroit. You need to hit it far. He's top 20 in this field. Scoring the par fives, he's 6th. He picks up tons of birdies, and he's been a really good putter over his last 36 rounds. All in all, I just think this is an absolutely perfect fit for him. And just looking at this Detroit Golf Club number, 3rd in the field. What's his history here? It's got to be good. Not Cameron Young. What are you doing? He had a rough last week. 2024 and 2022, T6, T2. That's all I really need to see. Last week, he just could not find it off the tee. Just was very inaccurate. Just wasn't happening. I don't think this is a regression backwards because the putter was still very strong. He's fine on approach. He kind of lost it with the driver, which is usually a strong suit for him. So I'm going to kind of chalk that up as just a bad week and move on. But this is an absolutely divine spot for him. The last guy in the 9K range I'm going to talk about is going to be Luke Clanton. 10% ownership seems very strong for a guy that does hit it fairly far. He picks up a ton of birdies. He's a fine putter, scores well in the par fives. He's pretty good on approach. I think this would be a really good spot for him to really showcase why he deserves to be talked about as one of the best young golfers on tour. Let's go ahead and just look at him by the numbers. So again, you look at some of these amateur finishes. I mean, his end to his college career was just absolutely spectacular. And then even on the PGA Tour, 34th last week. Where's his Valspar T42 Cognizant, which is kind of more in line with the field strength. T18, what would be another one? Maybe the RSM Classic T2. I mean, it looks pretty solid. Looks very solid for him. And again, last year a T10 as an amateur. I really do think he could tear it up this week and really contend with the best of them. Looking at the 8K range, some of these guys are going to be more of the course fit over recent form. Keith Mitchell, this guy is an absolute Thursday warrior, but what does he do? He hits it far. He picks up birdies. He scores well in the par fives, and he putts halfway decent. I mean, that's really all you can ask for. So I think he's a great option this week. The next one, Wyndham Clark. He does not thrive in places where you kind of have to be accurate. He hits it really far, but he's a sprayer. I mean, it's all over the place, and you can do that here. And even though his approach numbers are absolutely terrible, I think he's really only going to have to use his wedges, which from the wedge ranges, he's perfectly fine. It's got pretty decent history at Detroit, but again, when you are top 15 in driving distance on the par fives and you're top 25 in birdie or better percentage, I'm really liking that. The ownership's going to be like middle of the pack for the 8K range, if I remember correctly. Yeah, middle of the pack. But I'm more than willing to take a chance on Wyndham following a strong performance last week. The next guy, just purely that I want to talk about, is based off of driving distance, is Min Woo Lee. He's really not in the best of form, if I remember correctly. Let's just go ahead and check this out real quick. Yeah, pretty much he won at the Houston Open and has been trashed since. But if there was ever a time for his distance to take over and him to rewrite the ship, it would be here. So Min Woo, definitely an interesting option, especially at a little bit lower ownership. The guy that I'm not going to is going to be Matt Fitzpatrick. I think he's going to be one of the highest owned in this range. And he's not really the best fit. Does he pick up birdies? No. Does he hit it the furthest? No. Yeah, he's a good putter. And I'm pretty sure he's good history, if I remember correctly. Oh, never played here. Yeah, just I'm going to pass on Matt Fitzpatrick. If he beats me, he beats me. But I don't think the metrics are telling me, or the data is really showing that he is a strong play for this week. To want to follow the chalk of 17% or close to 20% of the field. So I'm going to pass. Akshay should have won here last year if he didn't 3-putt, I think, on the last hole or something ridiculous. He is going to have to do it in a different way. He doesn't hit it far off the tee, but he picks up birdies. He putts incredibly well, and he's got a great approach game. So I don't really want to look at these wedge numbers because he's going to probably be hitting it from a little bit further back than a lot of these guys. But when it comes to picking up a lot of strokes gained total, he does it better than a lot of the people in this field. So I'm fine with Akshay this week. Model darling for me is going to be Davis Thompson. He's going to be highly owned, but I think he kind of does fit the mold outside of driving distance. He picks up birdies fairly well. He's strong on approach, and he's fairly good with his wedges. So I'm more than fine going to Davis Thompson. I think I'm going to completely backtrack. He's not a model darling. I thought it said 89. 69. I think he's still fine, but at 17%, I might not get there if I'm really just going with the bomber narrative. Again, sorry, complete backtrack. I just misread that number. Doesn't putt well and doesn't hit the furthest. I'm probably going to backtrack. So the two highest owned guys in the 8K range, Matt Fitzpatrick and Davis Thompson, I'm probably not getting to at that ownership. I don't think they're good fits. That's pretty much it for the 8K range. Now, 7K to the 6K range. So if we are sorted by salary right now. So there are only 20 golfers from 8K all the way up to the 10K range. That means there are 130 guys in the 7K range and the 6K range. That alone to me says you can pretty much build whatever lineup construction you want. There are so many options, so many low-owned guys you can go to. This ownership is going to be completely spread out this week. I don't think it's going to be as kind of defined and condensed to some weeks. So really, you can play whoever you want. My narrative, again, is the Bombers. hit the wedges, make their putts. That's going to be the recipe for success. And pretty much from the 7K range all the way down, you're really only looking for guys that check like 2 of the boxes. You might not check every box, but 2 or 3 boxes are fine with me. Starting off with Thorbjorn Olsen. I'm pretty sure he's been injured recently, but again, he hits it far. He scores well on par 5s. He putts fairly well, and he's actually really good on approach. He could be a dark horse at just 5% ownership. Steven Yeager, he's got a little bit more ownership, but he does a lot of the things well that you expect here and you want here. Top 50 in driving distance, that's perfectly fine. He's great on the par 5s. He picks up birdies. Not the best putter, so that's might be what holds him back. Does he play well here? Again, he plays fairly well here. Let's just see what those results in the past have been. I'd imagine probably some top 20s. I don't know how many times he's played here. 2 missed cuts, but then 2 top 10s. T9, 2023, and a 5th in 2022. The 2 times that he missed, just couldn't figure it out with the flat stick. I think he can easily bounce back in a good way. I think he kind of some poor performances lately, but much stronger fields. I mean, PGA Championship, the Memorial, the U.S. Open, and Travelers, all elevated events. It's going to be really tough to pick up a ton of strokes, and a lot of it was around the green that held him back. He was fine-ish off the tee. Great on approach, great with the putter. I'm all good with Yeager. I usually love Yeager every week anyways. But definitely with this course, great fit. Now, a guy that I'm absolutely in love with that I don't think the field is going to get to pretty much at all is going to be Nicolai Højgaard. I'm pretty confident he's 4th in my model, but 4% ownership. I think his recent form is what is pushing everyone away from him. He had one good finish, and I think it was a Zurich, dating back to the Mexico Open or even the Cognizant. Again, cut. Second at the Zurich, barely making the cut at the Byron Nelson. PGA Championship T41, which is actually okay. And the missing cut at the Canadian Open. But what do you need here? You need to be able to hit it far and hit your wedges and then make your putts. So what does he do? He hits it far, scores well on the par 5s, picks up birdies, putts halfway decent. And from 75 to 100 yards, he's 2nd in this field. And from 100 to 125 yards, he is 1st in this field. That is incredibly, incredibly strong. Has he ever played here? Yep, 36. I think that's probably fine. Sign me up for some Nicolai Højgaard this week. Going down the line, there were a couple guys in the all 7,400 that I think we need to talk about. Griot, his big thing, he's not going to hit it as far, but he putts very well. He's good on approach. Good enough picking up birdies and good enough on the par 5s. From the little bit longer than wedge range, again, the short irons, 28th in this field from 100 to 125. I think that's just fine. Victor Perez was the next one. Now, very similar metrics, actually. Doesn't really hit it the furthest, but great on par 5s. Birdie or better machine. Great on approach. That's exactly what you're looking for. I think he's going to be able to stick it on the green as long as he's just making his putts, which he's halfway decent at as of recently. I think he can do well. Where Cameron Davis, 7,400, why I'm not getting to him. He doesn't pick up birdies. Yeah, he hits it far. He's really trash on approach as of late. I don't really care that he fits the course history mold and he's won here twice and he's defending champion. I'm not going to do it. I would not be shocked in the least if he missed the cut. It's just not going to be for me. I thought I starred Svensson because he hits in a mile. Yeah, he was supposed to be starred. So pretty much this entire little bucket, 7,400, I'm all over. He's trash on approach, but great putter, hits it far, good on the par 5s. I'm all for it. And I'm pretty sure he's been hurt though. Great at picking up a ton of strokes when he's actually doing well. I just gotta deep dive him real quick to see why he is that strong in these numbers. I don't know what I'm missing. But lines up. I'll trust Rick Rungood with his data every day of the week, including Sundays. So sign me up for some Svensson. And then, which is absolutely wild to me, and we are going to full-blown look at this. Number 1 in my model is Jake Knapp. Why? Let's find out. I'm pretty confident he hits at a mile distance, always on the plus. The approach game hasn't been the best. The putter hasn't been the best. I really think he's being held up by the Zurich Classic 3rd. I don't know. Very iffy. He always the comp courses for him are really really strong. Houston T27, Mexico T25. I think his history at both of those courses over his entire career is really strong. T31 last year, could not putt to save his life, but he gained an absolute mess off the tee. What's his ownership? 12%. You know what? I'm fine with it. I'll trust the numbers. Just going off everything. Top 15 in this field in driving distance. Top 20 in par 5 scoring. Second, he picks up a ton of birdies. He putts fairly well. I think his big thing is he has approach buckets. He's great with his wedges. And he's fairly good at picking up a lot of strokes when he needs to. So I'm all good with Jake Knapp. I think we're going down quite a bit. No, we don't have to go that far. Pretty much from here on out, we're just going to be talking about guys to check a couple boxes. I'll just rattle off the names just so we can get through all this. Rio Hitsatsune. He's great on par 5s, and he's a great putter, but he doesn't really hit it that far. So he might struggle and just pick up a lot of birdies. So it's kind of iffy if he's going to really succeed in a putting contest where you need to score a ton of birdies. Michael Thorbjornsen, he is a masher off the tee. He picks up a ton of birdies, but he can't really putt. So that's a little bit of a concern. EVR, big hitter off the tee, birdie or better. Comp courses are definitely big for him. He's really, really good at Houston and Mexico. So I think he could thrive here as well. Cam Champ, like we talked about earlier, masher, scores birdies, and is putting fairly well as of recently. Great on approach, too. I would not be shocked at all if he really shows up. Now, Audric Pottinger, he started off the season incredibly hot, had some really strong performances. And then he's kind of taken a dip. Now, part of the reason he's taken a dip is he finally got away from playing on those courses where you need to absolutely mash it. Where are we going back to? A course where you absolutely need to mash it off the tee. So, being second in driving distance, I think he can get it up there far enough to where he doesn't have to worry about being middle of the pack. On approach, I think he can use his wedges just fine enough, and as long as he can make a couple putts or enough putts, I think have a good shot. Isaiah Salinda, he's going to be very hit or miss, but he hits it far and picks up birdies. Not a great putter at all. Scores well on par 5s. I just think that's going to be his big hold up. If he can make the putts, if he can have a spike putting week, he can definitely do it. I thought I hit Henrik Norlander. I guess I didn't. I'll go ahead and star him for later. Not far off the tee, but he is fairly good putter, and he's really good on approach. He's one of those very similar to Akshay. I think he can do it in the opposite way, and he's pretty good with his short irons. So I'm fine with him. Looking all the way down, I didn't go far enough this way. No, I don't need to. I think, are we in the 6K range? I think that entered the 6K range. Yeah, Norlander entered the 6K range. 6K range is pretty terrible. I'll just be completely honest. There's only a couple guys that I really want to talk about. Norlander was the first one. Next one is Garrett Higo. He has one win this year in a lesser field event, so maybe he's going to show up. Doesn't hit the furthest off the tee, but he hits it far enough. Great with his, he scores birdies, and he's been a good putter. That's really all I'm asking for from this range. Sammy Valimaki, he's a comp course darling. Does great in Mexico. Does he hit it the farthest? No, but he's good on approach. His last 36, he's a good enough putter. Scores well in par 5s and birdie or better. When you are 81st in salary and you are top, 35 in all four of these, definitely piques my interest. The one guy that I don't think is getting any ownership in the slightest at all that I am definitely on this week is Jeremy Paul. Not a lot of people know about him. I'm going to go ahead and just look at his numbers real quick just to showcase why. So again, comp courses. Mexico, Puerto Rico, Corrales, T2, T16, and T25. Has he ever played here? Nope. Coming off T18 at the Canadian Open, which was a little bit stronger of a field, he gained across the bag. That's exactly what we're looking for. He typically gains in the distance category. Just looking at the model numbers specifically, again, he is top, 35 in all of driving distance, par 5 scoring, birdie or better, and putting. Is it against much lower fields? Yes. But I think as long as he can keep up this putting, I think he can be perfectly fine here. Chan Kim popped in the numbers. He was way up there. I think he was the highest 6K range guy, so I had to star him, and we wanted to look at why. I think approach bucket, he's great with his wedges. Doesn't hit it as far as you really want, but he picks up birdies. He putts halfway decent. He's one of those, I think he can make the cut, but I don't think he's going to be doing anything crazy. And then going down the line, Chris Ventura hits it far and putts halfway decent, but doesn't pick up a lot of birdies. Not great on par fives. Still checks a couple boxes. And I think, Norman Jong, great young golfer. He hits it far, pretty good on par fives. Picks up birdies, but he's not really the best putter. I think he's definitely an interesting option for this week if you really need to like dumpster dive at 6,300. There was one more. I thought, was it Hayden Buckley? No, I think that was it. Oh, that's it for me. So again, I'm pretty much fading the 6K range almost entirely. There's a couple guys that I really have some interest in. Jeremy Paul is definitely going to be one. Valen Mackey is going to be another one. I want to like John Kim, but I don't know if I'm really going to get there. I'm going to be probably living in the 7, 8, and 9K range, the high 7, 8, and 9K range. I think that is going to be the successful lineup construction for this week. But that is pretty much it for me when it comes to breaking down the data, looking at ownership, really who's a great course fit. Just to drop a couple of my favorite bets for this week. I think I got them all in here. Oh, wait, no, there's one more. I'll go ahead and click it while I'm at it. First one, I always do one matchup and then like kind of a top 20 bet and then pick a winner. I usually pick one winner. But for this week, I've got two. You can just look off to the right if you want to see them, but I will talk about all of them. I think it was 18-hole matchup. I think it was Luke Clanton versus Ryan Gerard. Where is it? Yep, right here. The first one I'm going to have is Luke Clanton versus Ryan Gerard for round one. I'm taking Luke Clanton to win at minus 115. When you look at the model alone, I got to scroll up and go based off of score. Luke Clanton is in the top 15. I think he's exactly 15th. Yes, Luke Clanton is 15th, and he does exactly what you want. He hits it far, picks up birdies, halfway decent putter. That might be kind of the only thing that holds him back. But if you scroll all the way down, I'm pretty sure it was like in the 80s is where is he? Ryan Gerard, he's 73rd. He doesn't really hit it the first off the tee. Doesn't pick up a lot of birdies and doesn't putt well. I think that is just not a good success formula for this week. So I am all over that bet. Luke Clanton over Ryan Gerard at minus 115. The next one is a top 20 bet, which seems just exactly in line with what I typically go for. I'm looking for these guys that always finish like top 20 at plus money, and that's going to be Ben Griffin. Just breaking it down, I know I talked about it earlier, but let's just look at the numbers. Again, we are doing top 20, and as of late, T14, T10, 2, win, T8, getting across the bag in every single category, and pretty much each of the last 5 around the green. You know what, it's fine. It happens. This is going to be the noisiest stat of all the strokes gained stats, but he's gaining across the bag in absolutely everything. I think he was like 3rd in my model. Second in my model. If you're looking at everything you want, he hits it far enough, picks up birdies, scores on the par fives, top 10 in both putting and approach. I'd be shocked if he didn't pick up the top 20. But yeah, all over that one. And then this week, I do have 2 winners. I just really like the numbers. Obviously, they both can't win. But I'm going to just go with the chalk. I feel like everybody's doing it. If there was ever a chance for Cam Young to finally pull through, it's going to be here. Cam Young at 28-1. And then all the way down, I really think this is a great fit for Wyndham Clark. Everybody's kind of bashing him for his antics, which I am too. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, acting like a child in the locker room for the U.S. Open. But he keeps saying, like, I want all this to be behind me. You do that by winning, buddy. And both of these guys have an outside chance at making the Ryder Cup if they have some strong performances. So I really like both of them at these numbers, especially considering some of the other names around him. And pretty much everybody that's halfway decent is like under 50-1. Definitely some long shots. There was a couple that I wanted to just talk about. If we want to talk absolute bombs, Steven Yeager at 65-1, Nikolai Højgaard at 70, and there was one at like 100. I gotta find him. Aldrich Pottinger at 110-1. Those would be my. Oh, and Cam Champ. That was the other one. They were both 110-1. Those would be the ones I would go to if you're trying to create an entire card. But I'm going to be sticking to Wyndham Clark and Cam Young. That is pretty much it for me this week. I appreciate everyone for sticking around, listening, watching. If you could like this video, subscribe to the channel, that'd go a very long way. Make sure you check out the article. It kind of breaks down everything we talked about in this video in a written form, if that's what you're into. If you don't want to kind of scroll through and find what you need to find from the video, you can always find it in the article. It'll be linked in the description of this video. All in all, best of luck, everybody, this week. Hopefully, Detroit Golf Club will be nice to us, and we can have ourselves another great week at the Rocket Classic. That is all. Thank you, guys, and have a great week.